Good afternoon. I am your host, Paweł Trzaskowski, and you're watching World News. The rupture of an undersea cable connecting Finland and Estonia has sparked renewed fears of Russian sabotage in this part of Europe. We spoke with Rostyslav Khotin from Radio Free Europe about Moscow's approach to the Baltic states.
Russia has been conducting spying operations against its neighbors in the Baltic region for a long time. Russia, I think they haven't not realized yet that actually Finland and Sweden are also NATO members. They recently joined NATO alliance. There is no such realization in Moscow. Russia still think of Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania as their sphere of influence, and still think of Finland and Sweden as neutral countries. In fact, Baltic states are members of NATO and the European Union, as well as NATO and Finland are also members of the European Union for a long time, but from recently also members of North Atlantic Alliance. So there is no such realization of these new realities by Moscow in the Baltic region.
The Georgian public ought to be patient and not blinded by the possible immediate results of its protests, as long-term thinking and time may bring better results, said Viktor Kipiani of Geocase, speaking with TVP World. He added that 2025 will be a crucial year for the country's future.
I would be arguing that it would be better to extend more patience and more vigor rather than and having those results a bit delayed, rather than having quick results, but those results being more costly for stability in the country and for the destiny of the Georgian democracy, which is still here. Nevertheless, I still think that as we speak on the eve of the new year, the next year would be very much decisive. We don't have to speak about years of Georgia's comeback to democracy and pro-European path. I think the year of 2025 would be decisive, and I'm very much confident that Georgian society, the large swathes of Georgian society, alongside with its international partners, will have a final say in that very decisive and very critical battle.
A significant US military aid package for Ukraine, worth $1.25 billion, is expected to be announced on Monday. This is according to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy.
I know that an important decision is being prepared by America to support Ukraine. We expect an official announcement tomorrow. Significant support packages for our soldiers, something that has been working during these years of war to protect Ukraine, and it should support the stabilization effort at the front line now. The more complete the supply from our partners, the more lives of our troops are saved. We are also working to ensure that our other partners also maintain their support at the required level.
The war in Ukraine has been raging for almost 3 years. Olexiy Haran, a professor at the National University of Kyiv Mohyla Academy, joined TVP World to discuss the prospects for the Russian invasion of Ukraine in 2025.
Well, unfortunately, I don't see the resolution because of the desire of Putin to continue his attack on Ukraine. I think that he's believing that despite the fact that it's almost soon we mark the third anniversary of the beginning of this full-scale war, so definitely it's not what Putin planned at the beginning, but now it's a war of attrition, and Russia is using manpower, its manpower, also manpower from North Korea, to continue the war. Russians are moving very slowly. So basically, I would say that one of the most important results of the year is that Ukrainians continue to fight, and Russians are moving very, very slowly. But, you know, they are moving. So that's And that's why Putin believes that he may continue.
Poland will complete the construction of a fortified border wall and seal off its border with Belarus by next summer. Polish Deputy Interior Minister Maciej Duszczyk said in an interview with the Financial Times. This comes in response to the migration crisis orchestrated by the Lukashenko regime. According to Duszczyk, the additional defensive infrastructure along Poland's 400-kilometer eastern border that the government of Donald Tusk announced earlier this year is on track to be completed by mid-2025. He added that once construction is complete, Poland will reach nearly 100% security along its border with Belarus. Tusk, who took office a year ago, has put the fight against Russia's hybrid war at the top of his government's agenda. The two missing residents of the collapsed apartment building in Cieszyn in southern Poland were found dead last night. Rescue operations had come to an end once both the man and woman were located under the rubble.
After nearly 19 hours, search and rescue efforts were called off in the Polish town of Cieszyn. A three-story building collapsed early in the morning on Sunday, after which a fire ensued. Some 160 firefighters were on the scene.
We were woken up by a bang. Initially, my wife and I thought that a car had hit something because we saw a destroyed window, but there was also rubble. Then, emergency services started to show up.
The fire soon spread to neighboring buildings. Emergency services were working to ensure that their walls did not collapse as a result of the blaze.
We saw a big explosion and immediately knew that this was where my daughter lived, because we could see her house from our window. She escaped in time because her neighbor helped her.
The building housed 11 residents, 9 of which were immediately confirmed safe. The remaining 2, a 78-year-old woman and a 46-year-old man, could not be saved.
Poland is ready to increase its exports of electricity to Ukraine should Slovakia cut off its power supply, according to a senior Polish official cited by Bloomberg. This comes amid a row between Kyiv and Bratislava over natural gas supply. Ukraine chose to let the deal, allowing for the transit of Russian gas to Slovakia through its territory, expire with the end of 2024. This led Slovakian Prime Minister Robert Fico to threaten cutting electricity exports to Ukraine if no way of supplying gas through this route is facilitated by Kyiv. Ukraine is suffering from power shortages as Russia has bombed a large portion of its power generation and transmission infrastructure. The official results of the first round of Croatia's presidential elections have been announced. Incumbent President Zoran Milanovic won the most votes but fell just short of a majority and will have to go to a runoff in mid-January.
Croatia's incumbent President Zoran Milanovic took the most votes in the first round of the presidential elections on Sunday. The Croatian head of state received around 49% of the vote, which is not enough to secure victory in the first round. Addressing his supporters on election day, Milanovic reiterated his promise to fight for justice.
I will fight for a state based on the rule of law. I will fight against the usurpation and violence of the authorities against human nature, against property, and generally against human dignity. Because unfortunately, there has been too much of this type of violence in Croatia in recent years.
In the January 12th runoff, Milanovic will face Dragan Primorac from the ruling conservative Croatian Democratic Union, who managed to secure 19% of the vote in the first round.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said that Moscow is not satisfied with President-elect Donald Trump's proposal to delay Ukraine's NATO membership for 20 years and deploy European peacekeepers in Ukraine as a way to end the war. In an interview with the Kremlin news agency TASS, published Sunday, Lavrov indicated that, based on multiple leaks and Trump's own comments in a Time magazine interview from December the 12th, Trump seemed to suggest freezing hostilities along the front line and transferring further responsibility for confronting Russia to European countries. Lavrov also emphasized that Russia's position on the resolution of the conflict remains unchanged and that Moscow is ready for negotiations based on the terms mentioned by President Putin during his year-end press conference on December 19th. The new French Prime Minister François Bayrou has arrived in Mayotte for a visit to assess the devastating impact of Cyclone Chido, which struck the French Indian Ocean territory earlier this month. Bayrou is accompanied by several top cabinet members. The most devastating cyclone to hit Mayotte in 90 years caused enormous damage in the French region on December 14th, leaving at least 39 people dead and more than 4,000 injured. Authorities have warned their death toll could rise and residents are still waiting for concrete responses from the government. Bayrou has faced criticism for attending a town hall meeting in his home city of Pau, where he is mayor, while Mayotte dealt with the aftermath of the cyclone. This concludes our news bulletin. Please stay tuned for more updates.